Arrowhead and Helldivers 2 is an interesting enigma in the video game landscape. You see, they've absolutely blown everyone's expectations out of the water in 2024. We, of course, know about the 12 million plus sales, despite Sony and their 170 plus countries and regions PSN account lock doing their absolute best to sabotage that success. But as a studio themselves, we've also seen Arrowhead settle into a bad habit of one step forward, two steps back. Welcome to the channel. This is LtBuzzLitebeer, and now with all functionality of the most recent Democracy Space Station update fully on cooldown and timers, the likes of which we never expected to see implemented into the live game, it's time to take stock of what we've actually got here, to get real about those deliverables, which is everything I want to take a look at today. Remember to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell to receive my future upload alerts, and here we go. But before we get into today's news, it's time for a quick word from today's sponsor, SURFSHARK, an award-winning virtual private network, or VPN. It's a must-have for any traveler, gamer, or social media holic, and there's a ton of great reasons to use Surfshark. Now, by using a VPN, you surf the internet safely and anonymously, especially when using public Wi-Fi. You also get around censorship all over the world, stay in touch with your favorite sports, news, or social sites, even when region blocked, making its many uses extremely handy. It also works on all of your devices, but let me show you my favorite perk. Take this as an example. The last time I was overseas, I wanted to check in on that day's sports, but it was blocked due to licensing issues. However, once I set my location back to the US, I could access all the results and highlights as if I was home and get back to enjoying my favorite sports. Oh, I almost forgot the best part. By using my link in the video description, you can get Surfshark for a discounted rate of just $1.99 a month. Plus, they'll throw in an additional 4 months for free. That's surfshark.com/LtBuzzLitebeer and start protecting your online information today. Very quickly through the Superstore, and this one started as a 2-day reset with the bomb disposal unit looking fortified commando, which has, of course, extra padding as the passive. And am I the only one that liked the glitched version of this armor when it had the Helldivers logo on the chest? Let me know in the comment section. There's also the Fortified Commando Blast Shield helmet, the Eradicator helmet, and the lightweight Eradicator body armor with Fortified for reduced recoil and 50% resistance to explosive damage. Over to the major order we go for a quick check-in, and yeah, doesn't it feel like ever since the DSS came online, Arrowhead has been in this watch and wait stance, almost like they're anticipating something bad is about to happen. Now, we won the previous major order, which, again, let's be honest here, we did not win. It was actually handed to us, where we saw the DSS absolutely wreck us divers with orbitals, only to turn around and delight us with Eagle Storm strafing runs. Now, it still doesn't answer the lingering questions divers have about the DSS, but we're going to get into all of that in a moment. So, the way it stands right now, we have just about 5 days to complete and win one of these seesaw battles of occupation. That's right, there's really no defend strategic points other than we need to liberate more planets than our enemies take. It's as simple as that. 3 more points of interest when it comes down to the galactic table that are definitely worth mentioning. Starting off with number 1, today's daily or personal order, which is to kill 8 chargers for 15 medals. Now number 2, and I believe this one's still active, but the airburst launcher is being awarded as a bonus stratagem right now. So if you've ever wanted to fling that thing around but haven't wanted to sacrifice a stratagem slot from your comfort loadout, here's a great opportunity. And finally, number 3. Many divers are currently pushing for the liberation of Yellowvar, which the Helldivers companion app predicts we will do in a little over 5 hours time based on the 10,000 divers there right now. But if you're looking for some bug action, don't skip Garharan, which currently has a 0% regen rate. That means even a small diver force there will make significant gains liberating that planet. Plus, it's one of those spooky, dark, forested planets in case you just want a change of scenery. Okay, looking back to last week, and I posted this video where I wasn't holding back on my feelings for the launch of the Democracy Space Station and just how botched I felt the entire concept and testing for that had gone down. And again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, but the entire Death Star concept was ill-conceived and even worse, was received by the community with disgust, even going so far as to call it a developer troll against the Helldiver player base. Now, we've seen community pushback also in the Helldivers Discord, such as this question from Cloud Plays, not only weighing in on the DSS itself, but also the processes behind the scenes at Arrowhead. Quote, "Do you not think that this consistent need to rework and improve implies that there are choices being made that are out of touch with the players playing your game?" In response to that question, we did see Arrowhead community manager Twinbeard actually chime back with this. "Hey, I think that the idea of the DSS and what it can become in the future is awesome, and I think it can be utilized for a great many things if things pan out well. I, however, also think that the testing process and comms surrounding the development cycle has been a step down compared to the recent heights we've seen for HD2. We need to own that and adapt, and no one is sweeping that underneath the rug. Not everything is black and white though, and things are rarely either crap or fantastic. The launch of the DSS was flawed, but it can be tweaked and evolved in many different ways. I think and hope its life cycle has just begun." As expected, there was also plenty of community feedback to be found over on the official Helldivers Reddit, such as this response: "I'm frustrated because this is a big step back with how the 63-day plan has been. I'm frustrated because it gets back into the untested, unpopular, and overall negative impact the launch of Escalation of Freedom was. But I'm also still hopeful and trust in Arrowhead. I think Arrowhead makes a lot of mistakes, but is able to at least own them, address them, and fix them. It's flawed, but I can accept that much." The lingering question is, how many times can Arrowhead resort to this 4-step formula of release, fail, own it, and then promise to reform and do better? Because in many regards, and reading between the lines, it feels like the studio is constantly in a state of playing catch-up, and that does not bode well for the thing a live service game is supposed to be releasing and delivering to its clients: new content. Dedicating resources and manpower to swing back around and rework the previous work, sometimes several times, is not only taxing on the devs, but also on the player base. Now again, I think it's self-evident. I love Helldivers, and I don't want anyone to ever question my devotion to managed democracy. If anything, that fact and that love of this game is what drives me to be so harsh on the content and the releases, because I, like so many of you, want a polished product. I demand more, and this death from 1,000 cuts scenario is just brutal to have to sit through and endure. For reference, the DSS went live last Friday, and while we were seeing initial player counts echoing the excitement and buzz surrounding the Helldivers' latest piece of shiny thunder orbiting a planet, that was until those exact players figured out what the DSS was. It's a stat stick with no social hubs and no interactions outside of an ill-conceived voting system, along with 3 stratagems or effects that already existed in the base game. We were bombed into oblivion as our opening act with the DSS, and despite the eagle strafing runs that are admittedly cool, especially if you're the host, there's nothing innovative or nothing here that could be used in an argument to convince players the last 3 months were worth the grind. As of the posting of this video, here's where the DSS stands. First off, the entire station is on cooldown. Also, you can't stack the effects, and there's no new passives or stratagems that were introduced. The feeling that, as the earlier Reddit article stated, that it was untested, unpopular, and had an overall negative impact on the game, even harkening back to Escalation of Freedom, is shown here in the Steam player counts. Recent player counts are dipping dangerously close to sub 10,000 divers, which is not where you want to be after 3 months of grinding to implement this piece of equipment into the game. Will Arrowhead rebound and actually recreate the DSS into something players will eventually see as a useful addition to the game? Probably, but the question is, how many times will this team push out half-baked, punishing updates, of course, always owning up to their mistakes, promising to do better, and then spend yet another 60 days undoing everything they just destroyed? And that's why players are frustrated. That's why I said in my last video, they tried to kill their game. Trust was just starting to rebound. Players were just starting to come back, but all of this was very precariously hanging on a knife's edge. One false move and it just crumbles apart again. But as they say, the rest is history. The Democracy Space Station did launch in this state, and now we're left wondering, once again, what's next? How will they rebound from yet another update misfire, leading to several outlets still covering last week with negative splashes? As an example, here's a recent GamesRadar article that reads, quote, as Helldiver 2's new Democracy Space Station guns down the divers who helped build it, one dev says Arrowhead needs to own that and adapt, but warns that things are rarely crap or fantastic at first. Or how about this one from The Gamer? Quote, Helldivers 2 dev says DSS will be tweaked and evolved following backlash. Now, as you can guess, the discussion here is much what you would expect, but the question for many is, and I also echo this, why does this keep happening? What is the internal process in place, if any, that keeps failing within Arrowhead's development cycles? Why was something like the Orbital Barrage even greenlit? And once it made it through the concept phase, how was it not just immediately canned, which would have been learned with about 30 seconds of actual devs gaming with this effect activated? By the way, I'll leave links to both of these articles, which you can find down in the video description in case you want to check them out for yourselves. But we've already seen photos, discussions, and promises about how Arrowhead and the dev team want to conduct more live streams. They want to conduct more Q&A sessions in the future. And I believe an honest reveal about the studio's design process, and more specifically, where and when certain decisions fell through the cracks, would be a great first topic for this live stream discussion, along with, of course, new content and possible release windows for that new content. So at this point, I'd love to be reporting on the fact that Johan and Shams had a recent interview teasing vehicles coming to the game and coming very soon. I'd love to talk about the fact that Helldivers has, rightfully so in my humble opinion, been nominated in 4 categories in the upcoming Game Awards, both of which are, of course, great news for Helldivers. But, overall, something just keeps gnawing away in the back of my mind, like a splinter of doubt towards the studio, making me start to question their work methods and thinking that up to this point, they've learned nothing. As if they just keep stumbling into and out of content almost by sheer dumb luck. And for any of my viewers out there thinking I'm being too harsh on them, I would first respectfully disagree. And second, I would point out the fact that we only need to look to the past and how the updates and tweaks were brought to the game as further evidence. We would see a great update that the player base loved, followed up by a disaster and nerfs, culminating in the last 3. Just listen to these. Escalation of Freedom, which is a nightmare none of us ever want to repeat, which came pre-nerfed. Then we saw the 60-day plan to restructure and rebalance the game, which did wonders. Players loved it. And then, back on the flip side, we get the most recent update, the installation of the Democracy Space Station, which, while not on the level of failure we saw with EOF, it was terribly effective at eroding trust in the studio just when it was back and on the rise. As always, I'm looking forward to your feedback, and considering today's topic, I'm going to postpone your top comments until next video, but, let's get some healthy and civil discourse going in chat. How are you feeling about the DSS and Helldivers in general? Remember to hit subscribe and to ring that notifications bell so you never miss one of my future upload alerts. All my socials, including links to all of today's sources, can of course be found in the video description. We are well past the point of 248,000 channel subscribers, with our end goal being 250K, and I'm extremely hopeful we can make it there by the end of the year. In case you haven't done so already, hit subscribe. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.